plastic surgery to prevent the outcome.
Oh no, that's all God's.
Welcome back to the greatest podcast in the world, The Fame Game. I'm Spencer Pratt. This is global pop superstar Heidi Montag, and this is Chervin, the legendary health genius in my life. It was so funny. I was just thinking one of the dumber things I've actually done is right after the fires, I realized I just remembered you had reached out and said, let me send you all these things to help you with your health. And I was like, I'm good. I'm not on the health. Like that was the time I needed it the most. And here we are. I'm covered in rashes. And I should have said, yes, send me.
Take help, Spencer. When people are offering it, take help.
Spencer, you were in shock.
Exactly.
You were angry. I mean, think about what you guys went through. Yeah. So don't beat yourself up. But I'm glad we're here now. Yeah. And we're going to get into some serious business.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you have an incredible company that we are actually huge fans of and have had for years, Cymbiotika.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Built from pain to purpose. Built it with one of my best friends and his extraordinary wife that we've known each other for 20 years. And we have an organization that's all in. And everyone there, top to bottom, cares about everyone's health. And that's why we don't sacrifice in any way, shape, or form. And the product speaks for itself. Thank you so much.
Amazing.
Yeah, I think I've been ODing on the product because once you sent me a bunch, I was doing all your packets 3 times a day. And then I was like, is this okay? Like 2's probably good. But I got it where you can, I don't know if I just have interesting tastes, but you can mix every single one of them together and it still is totally.
Because we don't use weird synthetic, flavor systems and preservative systems, only organic plant terpenes, which is the flavor component of all fruits. You can mix them. And so you were mixing the glutathione and the vitamin C. So we're talking about master antioxidants, helping flush your system, replenishing your reserves, and lowering the burden of oxidative stress that you've been dealing with the stress, the impact, all of the things that are happening in your life. And I just want to commend you both for what you guys are doing, showing up for your family and community. It's a lot of respect. And losing your home, I can't even imagine or comprehend what that feels like. I have a few friends that have lost their properties in Malibu and Topanga, and I just know firsthand what that feels like from a secondary position. So a lot of respect.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So why we're so excited to have you on here is because it just came out today that it's now official that they're saying the Palisades is toxic. It's what I already knew, to the point where we just sent all of our dirt in last week to USC to get it retested, because every time I come onto the lot, I leave with more rashes. They take weeks. There's nothing that works for them. I end up having to use some super strong hydrocortisone, and then my skin gets thinner and you can just see it, but it's the only thing that brings it down, and you can only use that so much. And I'm just in this constant thing. And obviously if this wasn't our house, I would never come back here. But part of me is like, if we don't come here and show this, no one will see it. And when you first got here today, you telling me you had no idea it was like this, even though you follow me, you see all my posts, you have friends that have this video. So my mission still isn't even near complete, because you can't convey what this is unless you come here. And last week, Karen Bass in the city of LA, they banned tour guides and tour buses from coming to the Palisades. And at first I was like, oh, good. Yeah, they shouldn't be profiting. And I was like, wait a second, that money should go to the victims, and it should be 100, maybe they get a little money for gas and just to run it, but most of it should go to some real fund in the Palisades. And they should have tours in the Palisades, because nobody knows what this looks like until you come here.
Yeah, just to speak on that, you see all the images, you see all the videos, you hear the stories, but until you're actually there in the material world, you can't really, establish a visceral reaction. And we were driving up here from PCH, started coming up, made it up on Sunset, and all of a sudden, that epic shopping center where the Air One is and all those things, I'm like, everything is burned down. Everything is shut down. And I remember driving through Sunset on Fridays. This place was a mecca. This is actually one of the few epic spots of LA for me, just because I have friends and family around this area. And growing up in San Diego, LA was like our backyard. We'd come up here and spend time. So seeing the devastation firsthand, looking like, there was a war here, really hits you different. and it creates almost like a schism in the mind, a mental, emotional reaction. And for people that have lived here their whole life, that have built their homes, that have created family, that have created legacy, generations, I can't comprehend the amount of stress and trauma that is being captured in every cell of their body. I mean, this is psychosomatic that we're talking about. So we're going to get into the chemical dangers. We're going to get into the soot, the ash, because this was not a wildfire. This was an industrial fire. This is factories of materials and compounds and plastics and metals and chemicals and, ion batteries and all the lithium that have melted down, the thermal runways of all of this material off-gassing and continuing to off-gas. But there's also a mental, emotional component that has to be looked at, because trauma is captured in the experience, and it is usually penetrated down into the body, into the cells, into the organs. A lot of cancers, a lot of diseases are coming from mental, emotional blockages. You throw the chemicals on top, now you're in a state of toxic soup. And I love the fact that you're expressing, you're showing anger and frustration. These are practices to release those things. And people that are just kind of huddled in, or they just want to turn off the news, or they want to hide under their covers, I would beg them to look outside of that and actually, interesting enough, no pun intended, walk into the fire. Because we have to go through these experiences. If we block them, if we suppress them, we're really asking for some issues. So again, I commend you guys. I really, I feel for this community. This was a strong legacy community, a lot of good people, hardworking Americans, people that have, built the American dream. They pay their taxes, they honor the commitment of the community, they show up. And we have many friends here, including yourselves. And so this is one of those moments in time in life that, things are literally pulled from the surface of suppression and brought out, and we can't hide anymore. And I'm very concerned for you guys. I'm concerned for your family and your friends. I can already tell, just being here for an hour, that there's major exposure here. Mm-hmm. There's things off-gassing. There's things, it's a little bit windy today. So we have an offshore wind that's picking up all the microbes, all the dust, all the particles. We're talking about small particle size stuff, things that go through N95 masks, things that lodge into the alveoli of the lung, that get into the bloodstream, that make its way into the brainstem, that get in there. Once certain things get into certain parts of the body, the tissues of the body, it's almost impossible to get out. You can do all the chelation, and we'll talk about some of those things. This is real. I mean, look at what happened after 9/11. Those first responders. In the 3, 6, 9-month, 12-month, 2-year, 5-year, 10-year subsequent years, these people are dying of cardiovascular disease, exotic cancers, mental, emotional problems, autoimmune conditions all over the place. That's real. The human body was not designed to be exposed to any of this material. We always talk about, what is this material? Most of the material we're talking about are petroleum, hydrocarbons, and exotic metals and materials and chemical synthesized compounds. These are things that were, in its natural state, were deep in the earth. 5,000, 7,000, 10,000 feet under the Earth's crust, away from organic life. Human beings, animals, plant life. There's a reason why, whatever this world is, whatever your belief system is, there's a reason why those materials were laying deep in the earth. We don't even talk about their purpose down there. We just talk about the dangers of being exposed to them. That's a whole nother topic. Obviously, lithium has a reason for being down there. Cobalt has a reason. It's part of the meridians of our Earth and the hydrological cycle and our weather and Earth patterns and migration patterns. But that's a whole nother subject. Now that material has been brought up because of technology. We're in the industrialized area where, human beings, we're too smart. We're too intellectualized. We want to make things easier and more easier on life, and we want to communicate with people in different parts of the world. We want to travel fast, all the things that come with the modern society. And me, you see my stuff. We live in artificial boxes. We're under artificial lights. We're not grounding to the earth. We're not breathing in clean air. We're not even breathing properly. You know what I mean? We're living in fear. It's all these different things. Forget about the pesticides, glyphosate, and all these things. Now we're talking about a whole different level of toxic exposure because they've been combusting. We're talking about thermal runaway with lithium ion batteries. I read a report that 700 EV cars just in this area alone had thermal runaway burnings. That's a high intensity heat exposure that ultimately exposes those ions, which becomes hydrogen fluoride. Hydrogen fluoride is a gnarly compound that any exposure, we're not even talking about skin irritation. That's just like, we're talking about deep levels of exposure. And all of that, we don't even know what that's going to do to a certain extent. So this is like a scientific project right now.
So would you not recommend podcasting here?
I
Is
wouldn't.
this a bad idea?
I wouldn't. And I'm here because I was called energetically, emotionally to come here and just speak a little bit about this. When the fires first happened, I feel like I was the only one talking about this. I've actually met a lot of my new close friends because I was online talking about the exposure. And I didn't see a lot of people really talking about it. I was talking about toxic burden tests. I was talking about what was being exposed in the atmosphere. I was talking about benzene. I was talking about cadmium. I was talking about lead, arsenic, the copper, the asbestos that was breaking down. We all know about mesothelioma. We see all the commercials advertising to your grandma. Did she get mesothelioma? Do you have a family member that's died from it? That's from off-gassing of it, let alone full combustion of this stuff and all the other exotic materials and plastics and particulates. And so for me, it's just one of those things where I've always been a truther since day one, since I was 3-4 years old. It's in my human design. It's in my archetype. I have to know what is going on behind the scenes. If I don't, I'm in a theme of frustration, anger, and rage. And that's not healthy for me. And I don't know if that's just my lineage or where I come from, but it's what created the investigator within me to go and look deeper. And it's almost an obligation at this point. And I'm willfully signed up for it. And so I think you guys have to be careful, because with this right now, the more exposure to it, the less immune defense your body has to basically do its own remediation within. Because this whole area, if people want to live here, has to go through major remediation. Yeah. I'm not talking about 6 inches of soil removal. I'm talking about something that is so tapped in. It might be the power of spores, where you're unleashing spores that eat up the microplastics and the petrochemicals and convert them to nutrients. It might be spore technology. We're seeing that now starting to make its ground. It might be something that has to do with some specific type of salt that can absorb a lot of the particulates in the atmosphere and in the soil. I don't know. That's a whole nother subject. But this isn't just someone coming with a hazmat suit and scooping something up and then, hey, you guys build up. No, this has to take thoughtfulness, strategy, oversight. And I'm surprised that, there's no guidance here. I'm reading reports that people really don't know what they're supposed to do. Like, they don't know who to contact or who to call to figure out what is going on in my plot of land. And so my first response to everyone, because everyone asked me, what do you do if you live in this area? I said, move. Now, I know that's easy for me to say, move, of course. Like, don't even think twice. And I didn't want to be unsympathetic to people's lives and whatever, but I care about their health before I care about their house and what street they live on. And that was the first thing that I came up with conclusion-wise. You have to get out of here, because this is a legacy fire. And this was not a wildfire. This was a petrochemical, toxic, heavy metal, plastic, petroleum soup. And we're not even close to understanding what's going on. And in the water supply, that's a whole nother subject. I was the guy always talking about the municipal tap water, not just in Los Angeles County, but even San Diego County and other counties across America, with the chlorine, the fluoride, the trihalomethanes, the birth control, all of the different particulates in the glyphosate runoffs and all that kind of stuff. Now we're talking about a whole nother level of exposure. And children, especially under the age 14, 15, 16 in the development years, there's no safe amount. There's no parts per million safe amount, parts per billion safe amount for lead, for arsenic, for any of those things. We're talking about mental afflictions that can cause cascading issues, and you would never really know how to determine what happened to Johnny, what happened to Eric, what happened to Susie, what happened to Kristen. They'll just potentially have problems, and those are problems that they're going to pass on to their children and their children and their children. I've been a huge advocate of getting all metal out of your mouth, getting all amalgams out of your mouth, all the nickel, all the mercury, right? Methyl mercury, which is a neurotoxin, central nervous toxin. You can see all the neurodegenerative diseases that are happening across America right now, Parkinson's, ALS, on and on and on. The amount of mercury now in the atmosphere is probably 100 times the safe limit that the EPA says. I read a report that it was, I forgot if it was lead or whatever, it was like 17,000 times the amount in the reports. And you told me, and I remember there was a pretty decent rain that happened right after that. And everyone thinks, oh, rain, that was great. No, that's not good. That rain causes all that material to seep down into all the estuaries, into the canyons, into the ocean. I mean, look at what's going on in the beaches. I don't even go into LA City beaches. I haven't jumped in LA oceans for 15 years. Hopefully today's the last day you film here. I know that this is powerful being here, and it's very difficult for me to be here, but I don't want to live in fear. But I know what's going on in this environment, and we're sitting in ground zero here. Your house burned down, and yeah, we don't see radioactive material like lighting up right now, but we're being exposed to particulate matter. That is, if it's not professionally remediated, even professionally remediated is a little bit suspect, it's here. And with a little bit of wind, it's picking up.
Yeah.
And we're talking about particulate matter that is so small. We're talking about nano-sized particulates that our filtration from our nasal passageway, from our lungs can't even recognize it. It's almost intermingling with the microvessels in our mouth. It's almost getting into our body and saturating, because we're not made of stone. We're like, how can I explain it? We're sponges.
Right.
We receive everything from the earth. Sunlight, moisture, water. That's why we ground to the earth. That's why we do sun exposure. That's why we activate our immune system every day with sunlight. All of these things, it's the same thing with every material. And our body can only resist so much. And these materials, this is next level. You hear about getting microwave, radioactive, Chernobyl, right? Watch the Chernobyl documentary. What is that? Enriched uranium. What happened there? These are radioactive materials. We're being exposed to these types of materials. And you might break down with eczema, and it might turn into psoriasis, and ultimately it might turn into something even worse. Because most pathologies start with an autoimmune condition. Autoimmune is a catchphrase. It just means your body is confused and does not know how to interpret a problem, a toxin, a bacteria, a parasite, a heavy metal, whatever it is. And so you asked me, can I go swimming in Santa Barbara?
Yeah.
I think so. I would watch the currents. I would understand what's going on. I'd get the water tested, and look, I know it's not easy. I think it's easy for me to say, oh, you got to do this, you got to do that. And I want to be sympathetic to everybody out there, because I know that, you're a little bit confused. A lot of people are confused. I was confused at first. I was like, what's going on? Like, what could the damage be here in terms of animals and humans? And it took me a while to really sit with it and to investigate. And I looked at a lot of documentation. I looked at a lot of information, and I basically came up with the same conclusion that's happened in New York. And the exposure is real. And so, do I think you need to shut down your life and live in a cave? No, of course not. Go all in, keep going, fight, fight, but be smart, be strategic, don't gamble,
Especially with our kids. And, that's what I was saying to Spencer last time. I was like, my face is on fire. Like, my arms are
So what are you feeling?
burning.
What symptoms
So,
are you
like,
feeling?
my face and yeah, it's hot, but like I'm in the sun all the time.
Okay.
All day with children running around. I mean, it just feels like an internal burning,
Yeah.
and then it comes through the skin. So it's not just your skin, and then my arms were burning.
So do you feel the
like chemical
inflammation
burning.
from it?
It feels like a chemical burn, basically.
Yeah.
And then it took me a few days after too, but I was saying that to Spencer because his rashes are so bad. And it was staph, and then it was, and every time he leaves here, they're worse.
When did that
it was
start?
staph.
So when did that start for you, Spencer?
Staph was like 3 months ago.
Okay. And you had it in your leg, or you had it, where did it originate?
Everywhere.
In your elbow.
And your legs, right?
That's
Got
why I
it.
never put it on anything anymore.
And what did they want you to do? Run a course of antibiotics or
I
something?
did 3 courses, and then I did the hyperbaric chamber every day for like
Good.
at least a month.
And then the injections, right?
That's
Into it.
another thing to talk about is these people here, a lot of people, they're on antibiotics, they're on
was
prescription
the first time
drugs.
I've been on antibiotics
Right.
in 20 years.
But there's
20
elderly, there's people that are already behind the 8 ball.
Mm-hmm.
They already have, different issues going on. This is just walloping them to a whole nother level. And so I think getting strategic with your health. Have you been doing any cleansing or detoxification? Mm-hmm. You haven't. Mm-hmm. So let's get into cleansing.
Okay.
So let's go solution. I think we did a broad overview of the troubles here.
We're fucked. Thanks.
911.
yeah.
Wait, they won't help. So who do I call?
Cool.
All right,
So glad
the
we did
hero.
this. Okay.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's always good to have a smart, strategic, helpful outside perspective. And sometimes you just need a little healthy kick in the butt for someone who has your best interest, someone who is actually looking out for you. So I always love and appreciate the advice. And thank you so much for helping us and sending us products, because health is wealth. And that is our number one priority.
Well, I have a solution.
Okay.
I'm going to have a bubble built in here.
There it
so
is.
So then we come into the bubble, a clear bubble, and then it even shows more of how unsafe the town is. So,
And just pump oxygen in it.
yeah, clean,
yeah.
just clean oxygen.
HEPA filter in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So-
well, let's get into the real solutions, the cleansing, what should we do?
So it's a combination of understanding what the problem is first. So reduce exposure. That's the number one thing, right? Everyone always asks me, Chervin, how do you cleanse? What do you do? The first thing is whatever you're poisoning yourself with, stop that. Whether that's the standard American diet, or you're drinking soda pop, or you're eating fast food, or you're drinking weird water. You got to shut that down.
What is your diet? What do you eat or drink?
I grow a lot of my food. And so I do regenerative agriculture with the soil at my house. I go to farmers markets. I eat clean, qualitarian meat from farms that I know practice beautiful animal husbandry. I stay away from meats that are slaughterhouse meat, that are filled with hormones, and the animals like adrenalized all their anger and fear. I don't eat any of that stuff. It usually gives me nightmares if I do once in a while.
Interesting.
I drink clean spring water. I drink molecular hydrogen 3 times a day. I take our glutathione. I take our vitamin C. I take our D3K2 CoQ10. These are all compounds, antioxidants, minerals, and nutrients that support my defense system in my body. I mineralize with shilajit and other minerals that we have. Our new magnesium is a tri-complex magnesium that does 3 different things: brain, cardiovascular, muscle, and bones. Part of detoxification is displacing heavy metals with the right minerals, because heavy metals and minerals are competing for the same receptors in the body. And that's the issue. So when you're getting exposed to, heavy metals like mercury, even, exposed copper or exposed lead, these are all heavy metals, cadmium, they have a same signature as things like zinc or magnesium or calcium, right? These are important minerals that the body needs to sustain energy and to create balance. And so if you can bring those minerals into your body, you're displacing the toxic minerals. So that's part of the detox process. Another thing is, breath work, right? It's not woo-woo. Where do we exhaust all our toxins out? It's through our breath, right? A big majority of the toxic exposure that comes out of the body is through the breath. That's why the breath is the pranayama. That's why it's the creation of life. You ever smelled someone's breath that has halitosis? Like a gross, disgusting decay? That's because their liver's backed up. They can brush and take every breath mint you want, but that's just a mask. That's just like lipstick on a pig. That won't do anything. The rotting methane is coming from the liver, kidneys, gallbladders, and it makes its way up the portal vein into the bloodstream, and it off-gasses off the lungs. That's why the lungs is the seat of the health, along with the liver. The liver and lungs, that's why most of the diseases too are pulmonary diseases, cardiovascular diseases that we see from exposure from these elements. Those are the first places that go first. Brain follows suit. So breath work, bolstering your immune system, so movement, sweating. The sedentary lifestyle is one of the biggest things we have to look at. Someone who's sitting 6 hours a day during the waking hours, that's a problem. Your body's lymph is not moving. We're not even talking about rebounding or getting on a vibration plate or getting into a traditional sauna or an infrared sauna. We're talking about just walking. And the problem with around these areas, and I was saying it on Instagram and other social outlets when the fires were going, Get your kids, get everyone away from LA. Don't let them play soccer outside. Don't let them do any of those things, because when your respiratory goes up, your heart rate goes up, your need for oxygen increases, right? To keep the blood saturated. That's what we call VO2 max, right? The higher the VO2 max, the longer you're going to live. This is like the Norwegian 4x4. Are you familiar with that form of training where you go all out for 4 minutes, you rest for 4 minutes, you do that 4 cycles?
Is that Tabata, or is that different, the Japanese?
It might be a similar sequence because they all know.
Okay.
That's how you can, that's the number one way to increase longevity, like 15 years, maybe even 20 years, and keep you young. You got to create something called the hormetic effect, which is that which does not kill you makes you stronger. The human body is interesting. If the human body is not chasing things down and having to survive, it starts to break down. Our world is smart. It knows that survival of the fittest. And in the village, the people that are dependent on bringing food to the table and protecting, evolution has said those people need to live longer and stronger. Does that make sense? And so that's why we got to push ourselves. Fasting for a week, cold plunges, all of those things, those are hormetic activities that causes the immune system to want to respond. We got to do those things. And so when it comes to this type of situation, we got to get out of the zones, but we got to get our fitness going. That causes the renal system, which is your kidneys and adrenal glands, to open up. That's when the lymph gets going. So we have 2 systems, the cardiovascular system, which is moving blood, which is carrying nutrients and oxygen, and the waste disposal system, which is the lymphatic system that runs through all parts of the body, the armpits. That's why breast cancer is high for women, especially with wearing metal bras and deodorants and all the things that are blocking those ways. Like, who thought that was a good idea? And then the glymphatic system, which is the lymph node that runs through the brain. And without proper 7 to 8 hours deep sleep every night, your glymphatic system is not working. And that's when you get metabolic backup in the brain. And then that leads to cognitive issues. Then you're reaching for coffee and caffeine and accelerators and all kinds of different stimulants just to keep you going, to keep you sane. And weird prescription drugs. There's all the prescription drugs. You know those ones. They hit the college scene over the last 20 years. That's how people were studying. I don't even want to say their names. And so we have to really look at the human anatomy and understand the fundamental processes of how this thing functions. So again, number 1, get out of the exposure. Number 2, turn your immune system on with proper sun exposure. On the rise, get sunlight in your eyes, sunlight in your body, get your feet on the earth, take in deep breaths. Don't live in fear, anger. These are things you need to work on. Journal if you have to. Bathe in clean water. That's another big one. Everyone is always talking about what water to drink. You got to bathe in clean water. Get a shower filter. Those vapors from the hot showers, you're breathing them directly into your lungs. Those are toxic materials that cause oxidative stress in the body. We're talking about something called ROS, reactive oxygen species. Imagine cells in your body can't understand what is happening, and it sends inflammatory, fighters, natural killer cells, defense systems, and all of a sudden there's little wars that break out. Imagine 20 years of that constantly. That's why people are inflamed. That's why people are hunched over. That's why people are not malleable. And this is when people get injured. They're wondering, why am I getting all these injuries? It's because your cells are falling apart, and your body's elasticity and its malleability is literally running out on you. So we got to do those things. We got to be careful with what we're eating. How you do anything is how you do everything. So we're eating quality foods. We're enjoying family time. And then from there, we start going into, deep levels of detoxification. So people in this area need to start looking at chelation, right? And so chelation is the concept of connecting materials to drive a connection and to pull them out of the body, kind of like glutathione. Glutathione is the master antioxidant that is manufactured mainly in the liver. We sell glutathione, which is a tripeptide. Glutathione binds to parasites, heavy metals, toxic metabolic waste, all the things, mold, fungus, all that kind of stuff. It attaches to it and then pulls it out of the lymph node. That's how it works. It's like a magnet, right? And it's the same thing with other binders. So there's oral chelation with things like chlorella and binders and clays and zeolites and things like that. And then there's IV chelation, things like EDTA, DMSA, DMPS. These are things that you really need to go to a functional medicine doctor that knows what they're doing and understands your level of fitness. Because once you go down that route, you have to be all in. It's not somewhere that you go in Hollywood and look cool and just hook me up to an IV. No, you have to open up the detox pathways when you start going into IV chelation. And that is an extreme route, but it might be a necessary route if it makes sense for someone. Again, talk to your medical doctor, talk to your functional doctor, but IV chelation is one of the first places to look at. Along with that, now we're talking about, again, we talk about the movement, saunas, traditional saunas, you gotta sweat. Your body has to release these toxins. It's super important. If you're not sweating, X amount of fluids a day, you're already behind the 8 ball. We have to sweat as human beings, and especially if you've been exposed. I think we all need to be, regardless of this fire situation. Sauna has been a big part of my practice. I use a sauna, I gua sha almost 3-4 days a week. Gua sha is the practice of using some type of material. It could be a jade stone, it could be metal alloy, and you're basically grinding the body and you're moving the fascia. The fascia is the layer, the interstitial tissue in between the bone, muscular skeleton, and the skin. It's within the fascia that a lot of our toxins build up. When they build up too much in there, then they start to get into the organs. You guys familiar with visceral fat? Have you heard of visceral fat? Visceral fat is the fat that builds up in the lower abdomen.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's the most dangerous form of fat. And the human body's smart. When you're in toxic exposure, it wants to move it away from the gallbladder, the liver, the heart, all the vital organs. So it pushes the toxins into the visceral fat. The dad bod, drinking beer, all that kind of stuff. That's the most dangerous fat on the human body because it's an inflammatory bomb. It's constantly releasing cytokines and inflammatory substances that leak into the blood that causes dysregulated immune function. So you're constantly in a fight all the time. Inflammation is important. If you sprain your ankle and your ankle swells, that's called an inflammatory response. Why does your ankle swell? Well, you probably maybe torn a ligament, you hurt some tissue. So the body's innate immune system is sending growth factors, white blood cells, blood, fluids there to repair, right? What do? We ice it. Why? Why would you want to ice that? You want to keep that area healing. And acute inflammation is critical to being healthy, but chronic inflammation is disease. Chronic is when all these little inflammatory things are constantly happening. How many people today in this world are actually like in their body, in their emotional body, in their health, connected to their heart? Someone cuts them off on the street, not ready to kill them. You know what I mean? Because that's all pent up trauma. That's anger and frustration. And they have to off-gas that on someone because they're in rage. And what are they doing? They're masking all of these issues with shitty food, with addictions. What I always see from these types of situations too, and we saw it with the pandemic, is so many more addictions skyrocketed. So many more addictions. Why? Because at least some people had social stuff that they were doing. They're playing softball games, they're hanging out with their friends, whatever it is. When you remove community, and people are already sick on a mental, emotional, and physiological level, almost biochemical, now they're in a really down state. And the only thing to do left at that point, you're not going to go and like work on yourself. You're just going to try to escape. And throw in social media now, where you're doom scrolling, you're literally within an hour, you can be in 1,000 people's lives. We're not designed for that. We're designed to be in our body, in our experience, working for something and being a pillar in the community. That's the human evolution, is showing up for your family, showing up for your neighbor. There's no more of that. And we're actually building higher walls to separate ourselves. So we don't even have to look at people anymore. Yeah. That's one of the reasons why it was always hard for me to come to Los Angeles. And I'm not taking a shot at LA. I just never felt real community here in LA unless I was in like specific pockets and I knew the neighborhood and I knew the people. It's just, I grew up in La Jolla down in San Diego, born and raised. And when I grew up there in the 90s, we had a community and we knew who did what and who did this. It was almost like still bartering kind of, You know what I mean? We knew who the dentist was. We knew who we can call for this, something broke here. It's just that kind of that's like a village, right? The aunties taking care of the kids, we lead by that example. Because of the separation, the fear, the anger, the resentment, the news cycle, toxic exposure, we've forgotten what we've forgotten. We've almost lost that. And so again, with Cymbiotika, we make the best products on earth, but our whole goal is to get people fit in the mind. I believe most diseases begin in the mind. And it's not a genetic thing. It's just how you do anything is how you do everything. And you can almost look at epigenetics. Epigenetics means epi meaning in front of the genetic profile. Your actions every day, your lifestyle are going to dictate what genes turn on, what genes turn off. The biology of belief is real. And so we could emotionally and mentally tap into our savior mentality and go all in and take our life in our own hands, or we can become victims and live in a victim state. And so again, I know that was a long speech, but being here and having this experience here with you guys and knowing what you guys went through and, with your kids and with the neighborhood, I'm feeling the emotions of it. Like I'm very sensitive to these types of frequencies, and it's not being an empath. It's just being empathetic to people's plight and also knowing what they're going through. You telling me that you feel inflammation in your body, you mentioning that you're dealing with skin rashes and eczema. I can tell you that your liver is backed up. Most of the problems actually originate from the liver just being overworked, from eating too many refined carbs and having bad food combinations. Now you throw in the toxic exposure. How's the liver going to process any of this information? It doesn't even know what most of these contaminants are. It has no idea. And when the liver can't respond to it, can't release cytochrome P450, a specific compound, or certain enzymes, it taps out. When it taps out, now it gets passed through. Now it's a wrecking ball of damage throughout the entire body and mind. And so again, I'm here to assist anyone. I think everyone needs to get some testing done. They need to do a hair mineral toxic burden test. I think after this thing releases, I can help people direct them to certain areas so they can look and see what's going on under the hood. I don't think ignorance wins here. The whole ignorance is bliss might work for maybe 1% of concepts, but 99% of it, especially your health and the health of your family and friends and your parents, the elderly and your kids, we can't have our head in the sand. We have to stand in our truth, and we have to examine this like our life depends on it.
We just had our blood work done, so we're getting like everything tested and done, and the hair test is another great one. What are your thoughts on caffeine, vegetables, and alcohol?
Okay. I'd love to see the testing that you guys are doing. So when you get those results, please send them over. Caffeine has a purpose around it. It's a very powerful alkaloid, very powerful stimulant. That's why it spans across many different things, not just the coffee bean, but also cacao. We're chocolate growers in Hawaii, and I love caffeine as long as it's balanced and nourished with healthy fats and minerals, primarily L-theanine and magnesium. L-theanine is an amino acid that you find in matcha and green tea. It's almost nature's perfect balance. How you do anything is how you do everything. I'm going to keep saying that. If you don't have intention around something, then it's just a drug and it'll take over your life. So if you're just waking up just to drink coffee and you're drinking coffee 4 or 5 times a day and you're not even present with it and it's not considered a ritual, it's a problem. If you are approaching coffee as an intelligent expander for your mind, body, and soul to catalyze your physical body, your mental ability, your cognitive ability, to help cleanse your liver a little bit, because really high grade coffee has many qualities. Rich with bioflavonoids, antioxidants, the ORAC level, which is the antioxidant score on it, is extremely high. It will work for you, especially if you load it with things like shilajit and magnesium and healthy fats, nutrients, honey, things of that nature. If you're unconscious about it, it's going to burn a hole through your body, and it's just basically an acid dump. And I don't even know the quality that you're having. It might be filled with mold and all that kind of stuff. Alcohol, very interesting subject. I've gone back and forth with alcohol because I've seen the destruction that alcohol has caused to our world. Alcohol is definitely on the bad side, 100%. Is there a place for alcohol socially, not as a lubricator, but as an experiential thing? If it's under control and your body is functioning properly, your liver is functioning properly, your kidneys are functioning properly, you're hydrated. And by the way, I'll just want to say this, back to cleansing. hydration is almost number one. We are clinically dehydrated as a population. Clinically. If you have dry mouth, you're already past the stages of dehydration. You can drink all the water you want, but then it becomes a solvent. Water has to be filled. I won't get into structured water or anything like that, but you have to have the right electrolytes and salts in it. I've been saying this for 15, 20 years. That's why I wake up every rise with Icelandic sea salt, teaspoon, and spring water. That's the only way osmosis works in the body to bring that into the tissues. And it takes months of proper hydration to fully get hydrated. And we're loaded with diuretics. It reminded me because coffee is a diuretic, green tea is a diuretic, prescription drugs are a diuretic, and alcohol is a diuretic. Diuretic means pulling hydrogen out of the body. If you're dehydrated, don't even think about detoxification. Don't even think about being healthy. Your electrical system and the wiring in your body is frying at every moment. We have to get hydrated as a population. Molecular hydrogen that we have on Cymbiotika, all of those things are adding potent valuables into the human body. Alcohol can have a decent hormetic response, meaning that which does not kill you makes you stronger. But it's all about the volume, right? Anytime you get, depending on your weight, your size, also your ethnicity, right? There's a whole thing there that, like, you know, the Irishman's got all enzymes to break down alcohol, right? Before the acetaldehyde turns into a toxin in the body and creates a hangover and starts destroying things. Whereas other ethnicities don't have those enzymes. We have to take a practical look. It's just like being exposed to the sun. You know, Northerners, Icelanders, Scandinavian, those people, they get less sun, right, up there. And so that's why they don't have the melanin production like me. I'm Persian. So I need actually more sunlight. Whereas people of, you know, your skin color might not need as much sun exposure. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So we got to get like technical here. In terms of alcohol, I think pacing yourself, not making it consistent, and having it be a celebratory concept is the way to go. And then choosing the proper alcohol is important as well. So like for me, you know, I went like 2 years, not a drop. And it was just by choice. I just wanted to see, how do I feel with not having alcohol in my life? Because it was such a normal thing, you know, in my 20s, have a drink here. It becomes, it's so programmed in society. All the movies, all the TV shows, everywhere I look on the freeway, it's this alcohol, that alcohol. It's crazy how much it's being forced down our consciousness. Having a glass of biodynamic wine from a dry farm wine from France with your mom up in the mountains, I'm all for that. You know what I mean? Having a mezcal once in a while in Mexico or with your loved one, that's fine. But when alcohol becomes something that you need and your body is sending a message to you like, I need a drink right now, that's where you have to step back a little bit and go, where's that coming from? What is the cortisol in my body that's taking me out of my parasympathetic state, which is the rejuvenation state, the healing state, and driving me to the sympathetic state, which is where I want to fight, flight, hide, because that's when addictions start. And we got to be very careful with that. And that goes with every addiction out there, whether it's gambling, sex, whatever it is. Food, everything's an addiction. Anything that you're doing out of intention is an addiction because it's a form of escapism. So that's my take on alcohol. And also, you know, some people are very sensitive to that compound. Mm-hmm. You know it. Some people flush, some people's immediately, it's almost like a niacin flush. Their blood vessels dilate and their eyes get red. One drink and they're just toast. Like there's something to that.
Yeah, my skin is my body's so messed up right now that I had a sip of like white wine the other night at dinner and my lips started like swelling up.
It's your liver, my brother. The fact that you're having skin issues means you're having basically your liver is burdened right now. And so what we're going to do is we're going to get you on a heavy dose of glutathione. We're going to get you on a heavy dose of vitamin C. I probably want you at 4 to 6 grams a day. We're also going to get you on a lot of choline. I probably want you to start eating 3 to 4 raw egg yolks a day. It's the choline in the yolk that is a regenerator of the liver. You don't want to eat oxidized egg yolks, which is when they're cooked.
Just like Riker.
Our
son loves raw eggs, and I always say to the nannies, I'm like, let him.
Don't get out of the way of your son.
Oh my gosh, it's going to be such a thing. But it's cake batter or like batter or whatever. But he loves it. He loves the egg yolk. And I'm like, Gaston from Beauty and the Beast was really strong, and he had the egg
He was fierce.
Yeah.
Don't get in the way of your child. Your child knows, because they're still in like God mode, and they haven't been, confused by the modern mechanistic world or TV or media or whatever the hell it is. They know. They know. They have the innate ability to know. It's their intuition, which is another thing that we've lost in humanity. Our intuition's pretty much dried up. And that's a flex that needs to happen. That's why I'm a big proponent of Waldorf education and Waldorf school methods, which is a whole nother topic.
It burned down over here.
I know. And
Across the street from the fire station.
I've been there many times. I've given 2 talks there, and this was a long time ago. And it's really, you're talking about the one over on PCH?
Yeah, it's gone. Across the street from the fire station.
Yeah. I mean, it's devastating. And that's another thing, like the fire alchemy. Like, think about how ritualistic fire is. Why do all the ancient practices have fire all around their religious overtones? Like, that's the phoenix, right? Burning to ashes, then resurrecting and coming back, and how fire takes material and turns it into nothing, right? There's something there's something there. And that's something to reflect on, especially you guys. Like, you've lost, your home, like, and it's poof. Where are we in the house?
We are in our bedroom.
This is your bedroom right here. Trippy.
Yeah.
It's trippy. Like, I highly recommend, really going into like almost like ceremony, and maybe work with a shaman or something, and access parts of you that you probably haven't even like exposed yourself to, because you've just been go and angry. Have you guys done deep crying?
I have. Especially in the beginning, I was like, it was really important for me not to suppress my emotions, and away from the kids, and them too, and I'd encourage them to talk about it. I'm like, and it's okay to cry, and it's okay to feel these feelings, and it is sad, and I didn't want to go back and do the work. And so I would sit there and also think it through in my mind and walk through the house. And I had this massage, and I sat there and I cried for like an hour and a half straight. And I let myself, and she's a healer too, and she was just like massaging me, and I was just going through it. And I was like, this is just my time to mourn. I'm just going to mourn and get it out of my body physically, and I'm going to think it through, and I'm going to give myself this time to just release. And so I definitely have done a lot of that work.
That's just that, you saying that, like, I can feel a lot of the cortisol I'm feeling for you guys kind of wash out. That might be one of the most important things that you chose for yourself, and that's beautiful to hear. The psychosomatic energy that we talked about in the beginning, it's dangerous to the human body, to the soul. And the fact that you gave yourself the opportunity to surrender, to feel, right? Instead of put scar tissue around it and bolster the false ego and allow it to rip open, that might be the most important thing that you did. And that's the greatest act of self-love. And I will preface everything we're talking about right now, like choosing to get a shower filter, going and doing a stool test and seeing what's going on in your GI tract, doing all of these things, getting a HEPA filter, deciding to move. What are we talking about here? We're talking about acts of self-love. I always say that, like, everyone asks me, Chervin, like, why do you do all this stuff? Like, don't you want to just live? And I'm like, brother, sister, I'm living, but I also, I value myself. I'm not just here to throw caution in the wind and just see how everything piles up, or throw darts blindfolded. It's, my life matters, and there's people that I'm responsible for. When my father passed away 6 years ago, I became the patriarch of my family. I have a beautiful sister, beautiful mother, nephew, niece. I have surrounding cousins. Me and my best friend Shahab, Cymbiotika, we're family. We are here to ride or die together and support each other. And I can't just, let it all go. I have to show up. I design and create all the products for Cymbiotika. I'm the chief science officer. I live in our lab, out of state, every other week. I can't properly source raw materials and create products and put my life's work into this, if I'm sick and dilapidated and doing things that I know are bad for me, I'll resent myself. And so another thing to talk about is purpose. You know, it's taking this pain and putting it into purpose. Right. And I think a lot of the community here has the right to do that. It just takes communication and it takes agency. And so we just brought up ozone therapy. I'm a big fan of ozone. I've been an ozone connoisseur for about 20 years, since I was 20. Ozone is O3, so it's a heavy oxygen. It's how the atmosphere cleans the earth. You can smell it after a rain, that smell. And so we're able to create ozone and do direct ozone injections, or we do the EBOO, which is the extracorporeal ozone oxygen system, where it's basically like dialysis for your blood. I think maybe you've seen videos of me where I drain my entire blood supply. Yeah. 5.5, 6 liters of blood. It's running through a pass and it's getting ozonated, and you can see the blood actually getting super oxygenated. It's coming out purple. It's coming in blood red, like just incredible red. You know, we have these technologies. The problem is that most people don't have access to this stuff, whether they just don't know where to go, who to talk to, or, you know, it's a matter of funds and being able to afford these things. And that's another problem, is like most people in our world today, they're worrying about how to pay rent or, you know, keep the freaking lights on, let alone talk about how to remove crazy toxic exposure from what we just experienced here and all the other meltdowns that have happened because of man-made maniacal things. Like, what are we doing? You know, it's like, I think this situation has to be one of those moments where we're just like, fuck, like reset. Yeah. Like, let's rethink everything. Yeah. What has to happen to have a reset? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Here's what's so crazy about like the reset right now that they're going to pass. I think it's called Zone 0. They're eliminating all the plants from like the rebuild. So like there's certain plants that actually don't, like our neighbor whose house didn't burn down. There's certain plants that don't burn.
Bamboo.
You know, like, so I understand the idea of let's eliminate all the, because these things do, but there's certain plants that actually are almost fire protectants that you can put. So in the rebuild concept at LA, it's called Zone 0, where this whole part of your house or in front of it, there's going to be no plants. So it's going to just create even more heat off the cement.
We need shade. You need shade, and you need a water table to be up, because trees bring the water table up. I'd have to look at that to look at it. But it's like that just seems like powder coating some weird thing as opposed to like getting
insurance. They're like, so they want that, but they still over here they won't maintain that. Yeah. So you're going to take out of the town all the plants, but then right here with the state stuff, that's all staying exactly why. So it's just this.
Yeah, bureaucracy. You know, I came here. I'm like, I'm not getting into politics, and you know, because I expand into every area. You know, I'll just openly say this. I mean, something has to change, and we have to get better as a humanity, and there has to be a direct communication between decision makers and how things are ideated. It's when those things get, you know, lost in translation, that's when you have problems, and that's when you have shortcuts and mismanagement, and it's really unfortunate. It's devastating, actually. Unfortunate is a terrible word. I actually apologize. It's devastating, and I'm praying, and not only am I praying because, you know, hope is not a solution. But we're here to support, and anyone listening to this, we got your back. You know, I'm all in. You know, I don't hold back. You know, it's what you see is what you get.
Yeah, that's the more I'm deeper in this dark, you can't even call it a rabbit hole, this demon hole. You realize it's just money and greed and power that's, you call it politics, but it's just people making decisions based off of how they're profiting off something that has decisions that affect so many people negatively. But the people that are behind these decisions are making so much money, they don't care. And then it doesn't affect them because they don't actually live here. They are on mega yachts. They are.
Is like, it's nothing new.
Yeah.
It's the old adage, right?
Yeah.
And you can see it like what's going on in third world countries. You know, it's the same thing. It's just someone is profiteering off someone's misery. And that's got to change.
That's exactly. That's
Yeah.
what I feel like.
Yeah.
From this is my like life mission, is to make it so at least I leave this earth and feel like, okay, I went along with everything and I just coasted, and then like you said, there's a reset.
Yep.
Poof.
Yep.
And now I have to at least do everything I can to make it so at least I know I'm trying to stop people that will profit off destruction.
Yep.
And I feel like there is that balance, like what you mentioned earlier. It's the prioritizing yourself.
Sleep.
I think
I know,
it's
Heidi.
the sleep. I think it's the
Sleep is in
healthy
the top
habits.
5. Sleep is
Yeah,
in the top
I know.
5.
Gotta go to
Yeah.
bed earlier.
I'm gonna pit. This
very-
is my reset.
10 p.m.
10 p.m.
Every
that's
hour,
a great,
every hour before midnight counts
Yes.
as double of the hours in sleep rejuvenation. Take it from me, because I've fallen off my sleep window, and I can feel a total difference. But when I'm in bed by 10:15, 10:30, and I'm not exposed to blue lights for the first 2 hours after the sun leaves, it's a complete game changer in growth hormone, rejuvenation, liver health, brain health. Everything gets better.
Yeah, I got a text this morning from this legendary, great dad and athlete. He won the CrossFit Games, Jason Khalifa, and he texted me and he's like, here's my app. Here, log in for free. Please, like, just get healthy and work out. We need you strong out here in California. Please, for me. And it's like, from that talk I had with Heidi on the way here to this, I'm like, okay, time to like lock in and just really.
Because if you're not healthy, none of it matters.
You're the patriarch,
Right.
right?
Well,
And
technically, people say I mooch off of Heidi, so
Right,
she is
that-
she's
Well,
the,
No,
she's-
you are.
she's
You are the
your-
head of the house.
You're the head.
I'm the heart.
You're
I'm
the heart.
You're
You're actually the cornerstone of it, because the feminine is not soft. That's an illusion. Life comes through you, right?
Right.
The void is through your vessel. And so your power blows me and Spencer's power out the window, not even close. Spencer's role is to guard the perimeter, have some vision. Yours is to hold it down fully. And that's the polarization there, and that's the beauty of it. Well, one other thing is a very simple thing is two things that just popped in my head. Citrus, organic lemons, not ones you're just buying from regular store. Hopefully you can find organic lemons.
We got him.
Blend those in a NutriBullet or a blender with the skin. Wash it first with water, with 30 ounces of spring water. Maybe throw some herbs in there on the rise with molecular hydrogen. Drink that every other day. That's going to help flush out so many toxins. The citric acid in the lemon and the bioflavonoids and the vitamin C with our liposomal vitamin C help flush the system. It's an easy hack. It's really important. And then oral health. Oral seats at the house is the beginning stage of your microbiome. Everyone talks about your gut microbiome. Your oral microbiome is the beginning stage of it. That's where it all begins. If you have rotting cavitations, root canals, metal in your mouth, gingivitis, all the things, and you're just not taking care of your mouth, it's another thing. Like I said, with hydration, you're already way behind. Step your oral health game up, right? Start scraping your tongue. Start getting ozone treatments in your mouth. Go see a biodentist. Dr. Valerie Cantor in Santa Monica, one of my best friends. She's been on my podcast 100 times. She's the best in the world. You got to get your mouth looked at. You got to go get a cone beam scan where they do a 3D image of your entire mouth and see what's going on there. All of those materials and bacteria and infections are leaking down into your body. And it's like that low-grade inflammation I talked about, where you're constantly under the gun and you don't realize it. And most people are asymptomatic. They don't know. They have no idea. It's only when a boil happens or they have a toothache that they're like realizing that there's a problem. These are things, I talk about them on my media all the time, on my podcasts. There's just certain boxes you got to check off, and you got to get ahead of it.
What is your podcast so everybody watching can check it out, make sure that they see it?
My podcast is called Wake the Fake Up. I've actually, because of what we're doing with Cymbiotika, I've had to take a year break. We're bringing out all kinds of new products. I I've been literally living in the lab for the last 12 months. Amazing stuff on the way. You tried the colostrum?
Yeah, it ran out quick though.
That is okay. I'll send you some
I'm out
more.
of that.
Your
Sea
kids, get them on the
sea
colostrum. You
moss.
should be on the
Okay.
colostrum.
Okay.
We use full spectrum colostrum from grass-fed cows, so it's
Wow.
not just the IgG or
Yeah.
whatever. It's the full spectrum. You're getting it all. And talk about rebuilding your gut, skin, all of the things that happen. There's also a compound in there called lactoferrin, which helps your body absorb iron, which is so critical right now. We shouldn't be taking iron supplements. That causes oxidation stress in the human body. We need to be taking things that allow the body to pull that material in. We could do a whole health talk together next time. Okay.
I do have two more
Yeah.
health questions.
Yeah. Shoot. I'm here for it.
Do you eat vegetables?
I do. I don't eat heavy oxalate vegetables or lectin vegetables, but I do a lot of sprouts. I do a lot of arugula. I do a lot of radish, things that have sulfur in it, right? So there's a compound called sulforaphane. Okay, sulforaphane you find in broccoli sprouts, you find in cruciferous vegetables and red cabbage, things like that. That's a liver detoxifier. It's also a senolytic, meaning it helps your body go into different stages like autophagy, as if you're fasting. And this is when your body starts to cell cycle, right? It starts to eat up things that don't belong there, as if you're doing a 3 to 5 day fast, which everyone should be fasting, by the way. And I'm a big fan of those. I don't eat like the standard vegetables that you'll buy at the grocery store. It's just too gnarly on the human body. I grow my own carrots, so non-hybrid, non-GMO carrots. I think carrots are fantastic, especially a little bit of sautéing on, a clean pan, not some weird Teflon bullshit.
Yeah.
And and using ghee, a little bit of ghee. You don't cook with oils. Don't turn oils rancid. There's a whole process there. I eat a lot of fruit, and I eat a lot of clean meat. And I eat a lot of raw dairy. I'm preferring A2 milk as opposed to A1.
That's what we have.
Yep, great. So
The
goat
kids.
milk is the jam.
That's what I have.
Most people are not lactose intolerant. They're A1 protein intolerant, which causes a whole cascade of inflammation.
We just learned that with our 2-year-old. He was having like these reactions. We're like, let's just do the A2. So they only drink the A2.
You didn't tell me she's a G.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why I'm married.
Dude, you're stoked.
That's why I have
We
2
only
kids.
have our kids eat. We try to do grass fed. Gunnar asked me the other day, "Is this burger grass fed?" And I was like, "I think so." He's like, "Well, I don't want it if it's not grass fed." I was like, "All right, at this moment, just eat the burger."
Gunnar knows
He's
what's up.
super
And
serious.
It's
with his
interesting you
food.
meant the nightmares because he randomly has nightmares, and I wonder if it connects to that type of meat because he eats so much meat, and sometimes maybe it isn't that right meat.
If you're not getting the right meat, you're taking on like the energy of what that animal experienced.
Very sensitive.
When you fast, can I still have all my packets or take those off too?
You take those off on a full fast. The molecular hydrogen and shilajit, the resin, you can have. And some of our capsule products you can have as well, like our inflammatory health.
Just do like a week.
Yeah, but you gotta do a fast, and ideally when you're giving yourself some time off.
Because when we go to Hawaii.
When we go to Hawaii, that's what we do. Also, coffee enemas. I think coffee enemas have their place. Also, hydrocolon therapy. I know there's a lot of people in the spiritual community that are doing coffee enemas all the time. That can get a little bit hectic because you don't want to disrupt your microbiome. But coffee enemas from time to time are really good for the body. Basically, most people think you're just cleansing the colon with the coffee. That's not really it. You're creating a huge glutathione push by doing that. So the liver dumps a lot of glutathione when you do a coffee enema. That's another good way to get in the body to detoxify as well.
What is a healthy amount to be on your phone a day?
0.
Because I do think that is part of, I think it can be an addiction too, but I think that it's like good to balance that. And so that's what we were talking about too.
I haven't
Like
been on my phone for 2 hours.
I know, but I'm just saying in general, I feel like it's also healthy to have a boundary with that, or like
the smartphone is the number one addiction in the world right now. It's the number one addiction in the world because we're not accessing the default mode network. You familiar with the default mode network?
No.
Default mode network is a fancy way of saying being bored. We're not getting bored anymore. And that's a really important statement to say. Let me give you an example. I went to a Laker game last year. This is hilarious. I went into the bathroom in the middle of the second quarter, and there was 8 stalls. And I'm waiting in line. You've been to games. I'm waiting in line. I come up, Everyone on the bathroom stall is taking a piss and watching social media while they're peeing. They couldn't even take a sacred moment of 30 seconds, 20 seconds to just pee by themselves. They have to be scrolling online. I'm seeing people on the corners of streets waiting for the traffic light, scrolling. Everywhere I walk on the park, it's a beautiful park, 30 people, they're all looking at their phones. I'm at the beach in Laguna, everyone's on their phone. This is not allowing the system to reset. Mm-hmm. So on a biochemical level, we're not going into the default mode network. If we're not going into the default mode network, we're not processing anything that matters. Even if you're just listening to podcasts and stuff, you're still not allowing yourself any quiet time. This is the ultimate addiction, one of the biggest problems in the world right now. And we should definitely have a conversation about this, because we can go down what this means on a physical and metaphysical level and what it's doing to our society.
It's so hard too, because so many people work on the phone. So that's the excuse too. Like, I'm working. It's like, well, there is the balance of working, but then there is also scrolling, and there's the responsible boundary with it. It's like, okay, well, I'll work on my phone. Yep. I'm going to set a timer, 30 minutes or an hour, and then I'm going to put it down for, but that's the hard thing, is they do have so many people working on the phone that it just becomes, you feel productive being on it constantly.
Yeah, I'm part of that contradiction. Mm-hmm. Everything I do, for the most part, outside of some certain, documents and things that I got to do on my laptop, which is another problem, is on my phone. And I know that even having the phone, even in my perimeter, is a problem. A phone is a radioactive device. It's not a toy. How do you think that phone's working? It's pinging off radio towers because there's a lithium battery pulse that's creating an EMF to ping every 5 seconds. And we put that on our person, and we let our kids play with it. We're anatomic carbon-based beings. And we're being exposed to that stuff just on a chemical electric level, right? Because we're electrical before we're chemical. But on a mental emotional level, we're never designed, as the hummingbird comes to me because it can feel the vibration, we're never meant that anyone in the world can come and do this to us.
Yeah.
You understand how important that is? We're not designed to have 1,000 people be able to alert us at any second. Mm-hmm. There's no barrier of entry anymore. That's a problem. And when you're a chief science officer running a company like Cymbiotika, or my business partner, Shab, CEO, we're almost 20 hours on. I got to be honest here. And that's been and I'm not a victim, but that's been my main affliction, is I've never in the last 7 years, because you got to go all in on this. Mm-hmm. You have to go. It's just sacrificial. I've never been so exposed to not being in my thought and in my body. And I know this too. I'm aware of it. And I should do a better job of what you just said right there, is where I can create parameters around it, where I'm like, okay, from this time to this time, it's Chervin time. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be in the garden. Whatever I'm going to do, even watch my favorite show, or I'm going to go for a hike. I don't need to be accessible.
Yeah.
And I don't have to record everything so everyone can see that I'm there.
Right.
How did we get to that level?
Like, people can wait 5 minutes. You can have, you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to answer people right away.
At me when you're talking.
Okay, well, when it's dinner time, you can just put it down, and the podcast people don't need a response right away.
It's crazy. Like, another thing with proper digestion, we're eating, doing other things. Like, we're not even there present with the food. We're not even praying over our food anymore and connecting to the food. Just think how crazy that is. We're about to take material and turn it into nutrients in the body. Do you know how much goes on just to digest, assimilate, and then ultimately eliminate food? How many biochemical reactions have to occur to make that an awesome experience for the human body? Trillions. That's why fasting is so valuable, because you start to turn that off and your body goes into a default mode of regeneration. That's why all the yogis and that's why fasting is the number one cause or the number one way to reduce your biological age. It's fasting. There's caloric restrictions. Number one. Beats anything. Better than any stem cell transfusion, but whatever it is. So if we're in 50,000 conversations, we're not even present, we're doing 10 million things, and we're wolfing down food, let alone not even chewing properly.
Yeah.
Like, that's a whole nother thing. And our body's not releasing enzymes.
Yeah.
Our body's now taking particulate matter and trying to figure out what to do with it. Imagine doing that for 10 years, 20 years.
Yeah.
Why do you think everyone's got leaky gut? Why do you think everyone's constipated? We didn't even talk about constipation right now, and it goes with hydration. Constipation is an epidemic. We're talking about how to cleanse our body and detox and do colonics and do IV drip chelation therapies and take chlorella and take binders and take charcoal, displacement with minerals, rolfing, saunas, sweating, all the detox processes. But we didn't even talk about constipation. People are backed up. They have, could be 10, 15, 20 pounds of mucoid plaque in their GI tract built up where there's biofilms. And what hides in all that stuff? Parasites, infections.
And what about the opposite? I feel like people have so much of both, like the SIBO and all that stuff.
Small intestinal bacteria is a complete result of what we're talking about right now. And what's the number one solution for SIBO? Fasting. Fasting. Turning it off. Allowing the body to start to go into a state of eating thyself. And that's what autophagy means, the Greek word of eat thyself.
Heidi loves to fast.
I do
That's
fast,
great.
Especially with my performances. Like on travel days, I fully fast before my performance.
You've never done more than...
Dude, Heidi,
I do like 24 hours.
Heidi's got it all figured out.
Yeah.
How much more mental clarity do you have when your body's not trying to break down 10 pounds of whatever?
Yeah, actually, I travel a lot better, but I am tired. So with the kids, I always get like a headache when I fast. But I drink a lot. I drink electrolytes.
Good.
And then I just have the water. But I do have to not really be running around with the kids because then I start getting a little more lightheaded. So I do it strategically away from them. But when the fires happened too, it just put me into like a different mode. I'm like, I need to like get a little more serious here. Like I had a loss in a morning and, you know, maybe I had a few too many glasses of wine or whatever. But then I was like, all right, I need to really get my diet together. I need to get my life together. I need to like reprioritize. I need to go to bed earlier. I need to only, you know, like I need to find more.
You don't need to. You're choosing to. You're making the choice.
Right.
Like, that's another thing. Like there's a psychosomatic aspect is like, if you feel like you have to force yourself, it's really hard to do it. It's kind of like the used car salesman. Like if you go to a car lot and the car salesman's like, you got to have this car. This car is for you.
Yeah.
You went there to buy that car. You're going to say no. But if he comes to you and goes, I don't think this is for you, right? He's taking it away. And human psychology is like, wait, why are you taking it away?
Yeah.
Why can I have that?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. You don't need to do anything. You're deciding I'm worth it.
Right.
I have a family.
Right.
I want to be around when my kids are 30 years old, about to start their families. I want to be healthy. I'm not trying to live to 500, but I don't want to be disease ridden and in my mid 50s.
Yeah.
Right? Because we're leaving the health span at a much earlier age. The health span and the disease span are starting to merge right now, and it's really troublesome. And this kind of stuff is just throwing gasoline on top of that fire.
Yeah. Also, I want more energy. And I think that's why people do drink and they have caffeine. It's like everyone's so tired and it is all these digestive issues. But it's like when I go to bed earlier and I have my chamomile tea at night, I woke up at 5:30 today, like ready to go. And I want to wake up before my kids or else I wake up with such cortisol with them screaming and crying. I'm like, and that's new this few weeks too. I'm like, I have to wake up earlier than my kids because it stresses me out. I have too much stress and I need to figure out how to eliminate it and what do I do. And so that's why I'm like, with the kids, I'm like, we got to pray before and turn the TV off. We're going to sit here and we're going to eat, even if no one eats. We're going to sit here as a family. And I'm fighting for that because I think it's really important and I think it's a cornerstone of being a family is everyone putting things down. Any business things can wait. TV goes off and we need to sit there and connect because or else everyone's running around and we're going to miss the moments. We're going to miss the food and we're going to miss the chewing. And, you know, it's like I need to chew. I need to not be so stressed out when I'm eating.
You ever hear like people are like, oh, as you get older, time flies?
Yeah.
Well, time flies, number one, because we're stuck on this like weird calendar, this Gregorian calendar system where it's like we have the holidays, January to December, you know, weekends, weekdays, like that structure just after like 20 years of it becomes monotonous and you're just like, what the hell's going on here, right? As opposed to just living every day as its own unique day. This is the first day of the rest of my life. But number two is we're not being present. And so what you're talking about is adding presence to that. Watch what happens when you start really taking the initiative there and you create momentum there, right? Because then, you know, momentum can go any direction in your life. Once you start doing that, your life will start to slow down. because you're in that moment. You're present. You're with your kids. And all of a sudden, doing that for 90 days, all of a sudden feels so much more condensed. And in a good way.
Right.
Where you're like, wow, I am now in my body experiencing life.
And it's feeling calmer and more grounded and more stable and more secure and more manageable. And like when you start kind of embracing the stress, it kind of like you can figure out how to manage it. But I know you guys have spent so much time coming to us, and we really appreciate
It's an honor to be here. It's an honor to be here. I'm stoked that we made it happen, and we got this. We're in this together. You know,
we're gonna but you gotta want to do it, right? You gotta want to do it. We all want you alive and healthy to fight the good fights.
I'm gonna start over.
Okay.
You got this, man. You're supported. You're loved and supported.
You are.
And you know, that's another thing about community, and that's the beauty of community, is that we're all here to support each other and to show up. You know, and this starts to spread. You know, because you really are the sum of the people you're around. That's just how human evolution works. So it's surrounding yourself with people that are on the same wavelength and having honest conversations with them, and not talking about surface bullshit and gossip and whatever the hell, that trash stuff, because that's all part of the addiction. That's all part of, like, don't think about what matters. Think about this crap. Look over here, right? Smoke and mirrors. Well, I say fuck that.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Yes, thank you.
Best day ever.
Thank you so much. So everybody, make sure that you get Cymbiotika products. They're in Erewhon, they're in Target, right?
We're everywhere.
The website, they are the best products. We've organically had them in our lives for years, and then this is a later connection, but we are absolutely obsessed with all the products, especially traveling. They're like these packets that you could just get the perfect amount. Anyways, this podcast is brought to you organically by, no, not really, but
I mean, in the sense,
in the energetic sense that we in this house, being here, have had that product for years, and it's come full circle to have you in our house in a different way. Thank you for the support for everybody in this community and the support for the world that you are bringing and dedicating yourself for such a great product. Everyone, please leave incredible reviews, subscribe, 5-star, pre-order Spencer's book, stream my music, all the things. We love you. Thank you. God bless
Love you guys.